Oh, wow. Hey guys, welcome back to Literature and Robes with Jared.
What's wrong with you?
I got a little new kind of studio background going on. I just finished reading the Dandelion Dynasty. There's 4 books, and I feel like I have just come off of a mountain top, like climbing Everest. Like, this is epic fantasy because of the sheer size of it. Political intrigue, there are wars and usurpation of power and power struggles. It's hard for me to put into words how I feel after reading all of this because it has been such a journey. The books were just gargantuan in size, but full of so much that didn't feel like there was one wasted sentence in any of this. I'm gonna kind of give you an overview of all 4 books briefly, but I really feel like it's best to talk about it as a whole because when you get done with it, it's hard to not think of every little bit and piece. The plots, the schemes, the creation of things, and the destruction of other things. The 4 books are The Grace of Kings, The Wall of Storms, The Veiled Throne, and the one I just finished, which is Speaking Bones. And I can't compare it to anything else. It is so standout, unique in its own right.
This is the shit, man!
I love Ken Liu as an author, and after reading this especially, he has put himself up in top 5 for me. Ken Liu has just blown my socks off. I would show you, but they're over there in the other room. I really enjoy reading about Eastern philosophy, Japan, China, Korea. The foundational cultures are so different from Western cultures, but they offer something entirely different, a different perspective on life. And the embodiment of that philosophy speaks clearly in all of these books. The main characters and all the characters that we focus on in all 4 of these books are central to, I think, the ideal of certain archetypes in culture that we both West and East share. Archetypes like mother, the father, cultivator, the farmer, the warrior, the tactician, the trickster. And these archetypes seep into the characters that Ken Liu crafts into these stories. And we focus in the first book on characters Kunigaru and Matuzindu, and they're very much polar opposites from each other. And Kuni is kind of a creative thinker. He's not much for physical stature, but he's definitely makes up for those qualities in how smart he actually is. And through the relationships that he's made throughout his life growing up, definitely becomes his central character trait. And a lot of people seem to gravitate to this sort of intellectual strength that he carries with him. Whereas Mata Zindu was more of a warrior type. He believed that power should be expressed through strength and dominance, and he was one of the greatest warriors known in the land, and he became friends with Kuni, who was one of the smartest, most sociable, and likable characters in the land as well. Eventually, they split and become opponents. I don't want to say too much, but I'll bring it back to the other section. Zindu is also his friend, but later finds reason to no longer continue the relationship as it is. And they become involved in a rebellion in the country that they live. And the first book, it gives you this sort of history, a legend, so to speak, sort of a foundation for the next 3 books to build itself upon. Because Kuni and Mata are the 2 main characters, but their influence seeps through into the other stories. The way he weaves his characters through the lives of these side characters that he builds, men, women, everyone seems to have equal stature in this society. I mean, not necessarily, because there are rulers and then people who live in the society, but the goal of everybody is to sort of bring everyone up in society and not just the few. And so there's a lot of philosophical arguments about the nature of what it means to be in power, what it takes to keep that power and maintain it over time, how it is expressed upon the society. Does the power want to share its inherent wealth, or should it gain that power through means of aggression and using fear to cause obedience over agreeance. And these themes just scream out through these books. We are revealing this history in the first book. The second book, and some people say the second book is really where a lot of people should start reading, because the story does feel like it's starting now, like the history of A Grace of Kings has been told, and now we can move on to what happens with this newfound government, newfound leadership, and how have things settled from the first book. And we discover that the world of Dara expands out further beyond the ocean. You find out that there are whole other societies out there, and these societies inevitably will come in contact with each other. Think back to the 1400s, Christopher Columbus.
In this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story.
And humanity, being humanity, is going to fight for what they value, and if it's different from someone else, and if someone else is trying to subvert those values, to limit or erase those values, it's just a fact that humanity is eventually going to end up trying to be destructive with one another in the fight to preserve one's history and way of life. And as you move through the story, the last two books read as one gigantic book. And I believe that is how Ken Liu did fashion those two last books. It's actually one story, and it does feel more like one book. There's a portion of it called the Blossom Gang. I find that story to have a lot of underlying messages and a lot of philosophical themes. And it almost comes through as Japanese anime. Again, they have these characters that have just extremely cool traits that make them really stand out from other characters in the story. It flows all together. It really doesn't feel separated by books, because when you look back on it, you just feel the weight of all the history. I just think that all the characters were given equal measure. It felt like every little thing was floating on top of this pristine pond. Each little flower or lily pad, just all these just amazing tales. He spends time with each idea, so nothing is contrived out of thin air. Ken Liu will bring something up, go back and just fill you in with perfect amount of detail. Some readers, I feel, might get stopped up by this. Some people might not care about going back to find the origin of a certain idea or an engineered machine. The amount of work that Ken Liu went in to make sure that every detail of his world counted and mattered for something. It mattered to someone. It would impact not only that person's story, but the entire social network was impacted by these ideas. These advances in technology and society would be provided to all.
It's good.
Yeah?
It's going to be good. It's
Right.
going to be good. I'm hoping the universe provides a path.
He really takes time to cultivate this world into this complete picture. He fills you in on cultural histories. You find value in all of this as the story comes together. So you are conflicted. You understand that not everything is so black and white, although there are characters in it that think that way. They are believable in their stern values that they carry. There are family members that you root for and really hope for them to have a great outcome. There are some that you really want them to have their just desserts in the end as well. It's very complex. These books are not operating with a very minimal cast. There are a great many places that you go to. There's new creatures. The biology is in there, the engineering, the mathematics, the philosophy, the complete culture. It's astounding. I truly felt like Ken Liu was honoring the memory of the culture that he shares. And I feel like this was probably a magnum opus for the man. And I have nothing but just bravo. I think he did an amazing job. I have to hand it to the guy. He held it in his hands so well, crafted it like bringing a baby bird with a broken wing back to life. It was so just incredibly moving. Incredibly moving.
That, literally, is the most moving thing I've ever heard.
So I know this is kind of a differently formatted review. I'll give the rundown. The Grace of Kings, the first book in the Dandelion Dynasty, got a 4.7 for me. I was extremely impressed with it. I wasn't sure what to expect. I think the only drawback was that I did feel a little overwhelmed by the amount of locations. There's gods in these books. There are lots of people, and each of the gods have their own crafty little ways of affecting the world without actually being directly involved in any of the interworkings of human ideas or plans or plots. So deftly handled. It was such a just a smash in the face. What in the world am I getting myself into? And then the second book, The Wall of Storms, was just this explosion of, okay, now that we have seen the history of what this country can do, we're seeing the capability, its full potential moving outward when it meets against a foreign adversary. And then we're also given the perspective of the foreign adversary to understand its motivations into coming into Dara, where the kingdom is thriving. And find that just the impact of those two is so grand. Wall of Storms, I think if you watched my 2024 Best of Golden Robes, Wall of Storms got one of the 5 robes out of 5 robes ratings. That book was flawless to me. The Veiled Throne, the third book, was incredible in its own right. I was a little worried because I took kind of a break after Wall of Storms. These books are pretty big, and so I needed a little time to give my brain a rest.
I can't. The third one I can't. Sorry. Oops.
But I went back and it pulled me right back into the world. The children become prominent in their own way, and they have certain characteristics of the great legends, but they also have their own wonderful qualities, and they are sent out into the world. Some of them are itching to blaze their own paths. But Jump starts into a new presentation of what's to come after the ashes of the battles from the Wall of Storms.
You will never rise from the ashes of your shame and humiliation.
So The Veiled Throne, I gave that one a 4.9 because it was a different way of telling stories as well. I think Ken Liu isn't just trying to tell one story one way the whole time. I think it's more like a pathway that you're going up to a mountaintop, and along the way you're shown the pathway sometimes is straight and sometimes it's curvy. Sometimes there's things in the way of the path, or sometimes there's things that you can notice off to the side of the path. There's a beautiful pond over there, or a copse of trees like you come through and the sun is shining down, or perhaps a sunset that you have witnessed on your way up to the top. And in the last book, you know that something large is going to happen, brings everything back to a resolution that is the most satisfactory resolution that I've ever read, apart from, say, Robert Jordan's final battle chapter. I'm so impressed with these books. I'm so impressed.
I believe him, yo. I don't know why, but I do.
Ken Liu really stands out as his own. It's a different style. It's not fast-paced, but it is without extra fat. It is lean. It doesn't shy away from talking about very hard things. It is very graceful in the way he talks about beautiful things. And so The Speaking Bones, the final book, is a 5 out of 5 robes rating, no doubt. I shed tears through all the books at moments. The most beautiful journey I've ever been on.
Moved to tears.
It's sad to know that I can't enjoy that story for the first time, but I will be reading it again. I have these beautiful broken binding editions, the Midnight editions. They were a second printing that I got my hands on. My lovely wife got them for me for Christmas last year, and I'm so over the moon that I have them. They're beautiful. Would you like to see? First of all, you have to see them to really appreciate them. So these are the Midnight editions. They have ones that are sort of a bright yellow daylight colors. The Grace of Kings. You can see the castle. It's often referred to as a Silkpunk novel because it's sort of a steampunk, but an Eastern influenced steampunk. The Krubins. I don't want to spoil that. I mean, these creatures are all a part of the world that Ken Liu has graciously given us. It's so unique. So unique. But by the time you get to the end of it, you can feel the weight of the books. And then, as you can see, there's sprayed edges. They're all that midnight purple, indigo, and they make this little image. And I have a hard time deciding whether or not to leave that out or the other way. But I just think that's so cool. Another thing about these is that they have this full color map. Dara, the islands of Dara. Notice the north, south, east, west orientation. It's a little different. So it's actually north. So that was one thing that confused me. For a minute there, I was reading everything from that. But then, each of these books have this nice little, whoop, signed by the man himself. And all 4 of them. Love it. Guys, I gotta say, this is something that people should embark upon.
Bon voyage, monsieur.
Bon voyage.
Again, I think that the flavor of writing is maybe not going to be for everyone. I found no issues with it, but I'm just merely trying to point out that there's just a different style of storytelling. Each chapter seems to present itself as its own little story, a little short story with a little brief background. It moves very quickly. It doesn't really hang on anything unless Ken Liu needs to make it hang in there for a bit. Every chapter brings a new flavor. It's almost like a gestalt. The more the parts contribute to the greater whole. It's like a gestalt painting or a mosaic of some sort. Each chapter that you come across, and God, I just love it. All the books together, I mean, the way it's impacted me, it's got to be a 5-robe read, all of it. I know that there are some of the robes were lower, but it's something that will never leave my mind. It's affected my own personal philosophy and reaffirmed or validated some of my own personal philosophy. And when a book does that, I think something in it, some part of it is definitely speaking to the reader. And me as a reader of Ken Liu's Dandelion Dynasty, I felt that. So 5 out of 5 robes. Ken Liu, congratulations. Let's hear a round of applause. Everybody loves you. Well, if they don't know it yet, I love you. I think you're great. I can't wait to read your next book. I do not expect guarantees that he's going to continue to write something like that. No, I'm not unrealistic in that respect, but Ken Liu is definitely a creative mind. He's a contributor in this space, and I think he needs to be recognized a lot more. This is the Eastern Lord of the Rings. I hate to do that. I don't know. It's its own thing. Ken should be proud of this. It is totally unique. I mean, the philosophies, just everything, the breakdown of it all. So highly recommend this. Go get it. Read it in paperback. If you can't do that, these things are going to bend your shelf down anyways. They're just huge, huge tomes of amazing writing. So I love it. I love you guys.
Who do I love? You do I love.
Enjoy yourselves. Teeth on the table. Sorry, that's a reference from the book. I don't know if you guys don't know that. Take care, guys. Thanks for checking in. And remember, keep reading. Ken Liu. Characters that are truly depicted evil or good in the end. There's a dog out there in my house. So